Hey everyone, so I got asked this question the other day and I thought I would share it with all of you. How do you know when a relationship is over? Now, the points that I'm about to make are based on my experiences and my experiences only. But the first point I would make is when your heart is done. So when you find yourself no longer attracted to your partner, and I don't just mean a once-off thing, because I think that attraction is something that isn't black and white. It's something that ebbs and flows in a relationships, and that depends on hormones. It can depend for women on the time of the month. It can depend on stress in your life. So I think it's okay to feel like, you know what, I don't actually want to have sex tonight. And that's totally okay. Even though society kind of says, unless you want to jump your partner, then you shouldn't really be with them. I totally disagree with that. Now, I think that on the attraction thing, I would refer to what Steve Jobs mentions in his Stanford college addressment in 2005. And he says that if you ask yourself that question in the morning. So ask yourself, do I still want to be, if today was my last day on earth, would I still want to be with this person? And if the answer is no too many days in a row, then I think that's a good indication of perhaps it's time to find something better or to be by yourself. The hard thing with the head heart conflict is our heads get in the way and our heads try to rationalize, what about everything that we've built with this person? What if we just see if it gets better? And that's all well and good, but I think your heart innately knows, or maybe I'm talking more about your gut and your intuition. But those are things that are difficult to listen to when this clutter is so loud. The other point that I would make is about threshold. And so you have to, I feel like asking yourself the question of what percent of good versus bad am I willing to accept? Am I willing to accept 70% good, 30% bad? Or am I willing to accept 20% good, 80% bad? And there are other dimensions that you can ask yourself of, okay, well, is it 20% of the time it's good and 80% of the time it's bad? But of the 20% of the time that it's good, that is actually providing 80% of my happiness overall. And that's known as the Pareto principle. And those are measures that I can't tell you that you have to determine in your relationship. That's something that you have to figure out yourself. What is your threshold? What are you willing to accept? Or how do you want your life to look like, essentially? I think it's a bit unrealistic to think that things are going to be good 100% of the time, because if it's good, then that's just normal. So is it really good? Happiness, sunshine all the time makes a desert is a great Arab proverb. The other thing that I would probably say is when you find yourself losing yourself, and what I mean by that is you're becoming someone that you don't like, whether that's because you're being controlled by your partner, or you're feeling these insecurities, or you're feeling like you have to control someone. And instead of your partner bringing out the best in you, which is probably what you would want if you were with someone, they're actually bringing out the worst in you. They're pushing your buttons. They're, making you react when you don't normally react. And the example that I would give of that is I was seeing someone a couple of years ago, and I found myself losing myself. So becoming someone that I hated, that I despised. I was becoming the old me that I didn't want a part of. I was becoming insecure and controlling. And what I realized is that my heart knew there was no future with this person. And so that's why I started acting out, because I was trying to control something that I couldn't control because there was no future there. And so I had to make a decision to let this person go, even though I still loved and cared for them very deeply. I just knew that there was no future with them. And that was listening to my heart and my intuition rather than listening to my head and listening to essentially the things that they were telling me. The other point that I would make is if there is nothing for you to learn or grow from. And what I mean by that is I think that any time you're going through something difficult with someone else, it's an opportunity to learn and grow within yourself and in the relationship. But the first thing that you have to establish is that you both are there to work things out, that you both essentially want to grow together. And if you don't have that foundation, then there's not really a future for either of you. It's all well and good that you want to solve things, but unless your partner is on the same page, it's a dead end, really. And the example, or I remember reading something on Nicole Gibson's post, and she said that a lot of people in relationships, they give up when things get tough because it's like, oh, well, I shouldn't have to put up with this. I can find better elsewhere. And what you'll end up finding is that if you don't resolve the problem that you're having in the relationship then and there, that same problem will repeat itself in future relationships. And you'll keep going through this cycle until you break the cycle, until you do the growth that you need to do. And I have that example in the past couple of relationships where I've had problems with my partner drinking. And in my head, I would rationalize it as, oh, well, I'm worried about their safety, or I don't like them getting into dark places when they drink, or whatever it is that I would use my head to justify. But that was just my ego. That was my ego trying to make me feel like I was the better person, that I wasn't in the wrong. But actually, what it came down to when I kept asking myself, why am I having a problem with this? Why does this keep repeating itself within probably the 6-month mark of my relationship? And the answer was, there's a difference in values between my partner and I, or potentially. And that's, it wasn't actually an issue with my partner drinking. It was an issue with the fact that my partner would rather go out and drink than spend time with me. Now that's an issue that I have that then I can address and then I can learn and grow from. And so something to remember with that is any time that you're in emotional pain, it's because of how you're perceiving the situation. So that must mean that in order for you to not be in pain, you have to change the way that you're thinking about it. You have to move yourself emotionally. Anyway, I think those are the main points that I wanted to address with that, with this topic of how do you know when a relationship is over. So always interested to hear what anyone else has to say. Have a fabulous Easter and long weekend. See ya.